Every sin got a name carved in old. Every prayer's just a lie someone broke. Cold reckoning, it chills the bone. I walk these roads I used to own. The past don't sleep, it waits in the well. Cold reckoning, now I know it too well.
Against the United States Department of Homeland Security to end the unlawful, unprecedented surge of the federal law enforcement agents into Minnesota. Because this has to stop. It just has to stop. We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy, and our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law. We allege that the surge's reckless impact on our schools, on our local law enforcement, is a violation of the 10th Amendment and the sovereign laws and powers of the Constitution grants to states. We allege that DHS's use of excessive and lethal force, their warrantless, racist arrests, their targeting of our courts, our churches, houses of worship, and schools are a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act on arbitrary and capricious federal actions. And we ask that the courts will end the surge of thousands of DHS agents into Minnesota. We ask the courts to end the DHS unlawful behavior in our state, the intimidation, the threats, the violence. We ask the courts to end the tactics on our places of worship, our schools, our courts, our marketplaces, our hospitals, and even funeral homes. The deployment of thousands of armed, mass DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop.
So let me get this straight. When American federal agents enter Minnesota, enforcing federal law with badges, warrants, and constitutional authority, that's called an invasion. But when millions of foreign nationals cross the border illegally, overwhelm cities, schools, hospitals, and courts, that's not? Are you kidding me? That's not just wrong, that's intellectually dishonest. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to dismantle this bullshit completely. Because what attorney Keith Ellison is claiming is horseshit. He's saying that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE are invading Minnesota. He calls it an unlawful, unprecedented surge. This is what he's saying about federal agents and what they're doing. They're targeting communities. Now listen to me. They're overwhelming schools and courts, violating state sovereignty, creating fear, undermining democracy. And he says all of that has to stop. That language is not accidental. Invasion is not a throwaway word. It's a constitutional term. So let's just treat that seriously for just a moment, okay? Now, let's do a little mirror test. Because here's the problem for you, Keith Ellison. Every single argument you just made is the exact same argument the federal government has been making for years about illegal immigration. Unprecedented surge, strained schools and hospitals, overloaded courts, local governments overwhelmed, communities destabilized. That doesn't sound new. That's the federal government's own justification for border enforcement. Thank you. So the question is not whether Ellison's argument exists. The question is whether it applies consistently. Now, let's do a side-by-side collapse of this. Let's compare. Ellison says thousands of DHS agents entering Minnesota is an invasion. But millions of illegals border crossing, that's not. Ellison says federal presence strains schools and courts, but illegal immigration straining schools and courts is dismissed as a talking point. He also says that state sovereignty matters when Minnesota objects, but border states are told sovereignty doesn't apply when they object. Ellison also says communities feel intimidated by armed federal agents, but communities feeling unsafe due to mass illegal entry is called fear-mongering. That is not a legal standard. That is literally political double standard. Now, a little constitutional reality check for you. Here's the part that makes this argument collapse completely. ICE and DHS agents are, number one, American citizens. 2, operating under federal law. 3, authorized by Congress. 4, enforcing statutes passed by elected representatives. 5, acting within the Constitution. Illegal immigration is by definition unlawful entry outside the consent of the state, outside the consent of the citizenry, in violation of federal law. If one of these is an invasion, then logic demands the other be taken seriously. You don't get to call law enforcement tyranny while calling unlawful mass entry compassion. Now, let's expose a little bit of hypocrisy here. Ellison accidentally proves the argument he opposes because he's readily admitting that scale matters, consent matters, capacity matters, sovereignty matters, impact matters. He just applies these principles selectively. And selective principles are not principles at all. They're excuses. So here's the final question. Here's the question that no one wants to answer. Why is it that we apply these standards to Americans performing their jobs under the Constitution, under the law, with accountability, but we refuse to apply those same standards to illegal immigration? Why is enforcement an invasion, but law-breaking is not? Why is sovereignty sacred in Minnesota, but irrelevant at the border? That contradiction is not accidental, people. It's the entire point. Now, you cannot defend the Constitution by attacking the people sworn to uphold it. And you cannot call enforcement tyranny while calling chaos compassion. The American people see the difference. And they're done pretending they don't.
Every sin got a name carved in old